Hey, what's going on there, folks? Good evening. Welcome back here to another update on this Thursday night. It is about 11:28 p.m. here, California time, January 4th, 2024. Latest activity looks like some movement up into the Alaska region with a 2.1 coming in. Did see some activity striking out here in the state of Washington earlier, just outside the Mount Rainier area and also Mount St. Helens. So a lot of this earthquake activity occurring just prior to the summit region of these volcanoes. I believe this is some stress related events out here. Mount St. Helens here to the west did see a 3.0, about 11 kilometers deep or so, and some activity right now coming in, as mentioned, into the Mount Rainier area. 2.8 looks to be the largest in that little cluster of earthquake activity, again in the Cascades. I don't believe this is volcanic related. It is just to the west here of the volcano, but we'll continue to watch that tremor map here tonight. Let me see what's going on here across the tremor. We got about 203 epicenters of tremor up north of Seattle. Uncertain on if this would affect the areas here across the Cascades as far as stress goes, but either way, we'll keep an eye on it. Movement across California here, seeing some slight uptick here, it looks like. Mainly well south. We do have one little earthquake in the Mammoth Lakes area, 1.9. Pretty shallow earthquake there. And there's that activity stirring up down here across the San Jacinto fault zone, and a handful of smaller quakes across the Los Angeles area as well. Nothing big. The 2.5 map and above shows a nothing. So all microquakes out here. No major swarms to announce or to report on out there. Yellowstone National Park. Let's see here. Their last reported earthquake was a 0.3 earlier this afternoon. Now, I'm not for sure if they're probably not reporting it if there's anything else coming in, unless it's above a 2.5 preliminary threshold that they use. So let's go over and check out the Yellowstone activity ourselves. This is a pretty cool site to use. It's called isthisthingOn.org, and then you got Yellowstone, the day thumbs here. This gives us a general map layout here of where the seismograph stations are situated in relation to the Yellowstone supervolcano, and of course the caldera is in this darker line here. Yellowstone Lake right here in the blue. And earthquake activity here over the last 24 hours still shows some movement. I'm sure they'll get to some of this activity tomorrow sometime. Looks like things are, they haven't completely died off. There's a couple earthquakes here in the last few hours. Not quite as intense as what we've seen here late last night or so, but there's still some earthquake activity kicking up out there. And we'll continue to watch that. Iceland here real quick, see if we got anything major going on. Got about 24 earthquakes in the last 12 hours scattered about. The area over here across this region, the rift zone, still seeing some activity. Grindavik, the town where this latest magma intrusion is going on, is still, well, not active. I mean, it's not showing any elevated earthquake activity. Obviously, the GPS coordinates are still, or not coordinates, but the GPS tilt meters out here are still taking a turn for the upwards area, inflation that is. This is the map here I'm kind of chatting about. January would be roughly about here, I would say. And so the past few days, it kind of looks like it mellowed out here, leveled out a little bit. But now we're taking a turn more sharpward and upward. And that line pretty much matches the previous line of inflation just prior to the eruption there, that fissure activity that opened up northeast of Grindavik that lasted for a couple days or so. Notice a drop here during the eruption, but we're back up there to that same level, so we'll continue to watch that for any changes that take place there. Movement across Texas, Kansas, Oklahoma, roughly about the same. Got some movement down here in Falls City area, Texas area. 3.3. I think the wording out here on the map can tell us enough what's going on out there. There's literally thousands of oil fields out here in the oil fields of Texas, and earthquake activity popping off out there. The rest of the map got some movement well south here in the southeast Indian Ridge. Been a little while since we've seen any movement up here or down here. That earthquake coming in earlier this evening. A couple other earthquakes up north. Papua New Guinea, it looks like, seen a 4.9. And the more recent earthquake up here got a 4.5, 20 kilometers deep. Let's see what we got going on the earthquake 3D globe here. Not a whole lot going on for New Zealand. It looks like they did have a 3.7 here, South Island area. Right smack dab on the plate boundary. But aside from that, really not showing anything of significance out there for now. Typical movement out here across this area. I mean, it looks fairly active, but this is all fairly normal. Still seeing some activity up here into the Japan area, though. Aftershock activity continuing, as you can see here on this map. But kind of spreading out a little bit here. Across the Izu Trench, Japan Trench, and even up into the Kuril-Kamchatka Trench, where we've seen a pretty shallow earthquake here earlier this afternoon. Since then, most of the activity has been south here across this plate boundary. But we'll continue to watch this area here of the Kuril-Kamchatka. It could be next on the list there for seeing some large-scale activity. Definitely has been building up some strain for a little while. All right, rest of the globe here. The Atlantic Ocean is quiet as can be. 3.1 down in the South America area right now. Handful of earthquakes in their typical zones. Let's go and check out the volcanic activity up here. I want to see what's going on here across some of these graphs where these earthquakes are kind of striking. It doesn't really show the most recent ones up here. A couple smaller ones up at the summit region over the last couple weeks, but let's go ahead and see what we got for this volcano there in Washington. Maybe, maybe not. That was kind of a long time. There's that 2.8 earlier this evening, it looks like, away from Mount Rainier. This was to the west. There's that three-pointer in Mount St. Helens area. Kind of showed up there. A handful of smaller quakes, it looks like, around the vicinity of Mount Rainier. The previous day map or graph here shows about the same, but for the most part, really no significant swarming going on there. Across the Mount Rainier area. Let's check out Mount St. Helens, see what's going on there. There's that three-pointer outside of the red circled area here. That earthquake coming in about 11 kilometers deep or so. And I'm sure these seismograph stations picked it up quite nicely for that three-pointer that kicked up here just a couple hours ago or so. Let's see what we got. There's three-pointer right there, Mount St. Helens. Pretty close anyway. There's that 2.8 Mount Rainier. But for the most part, really not seeing things showing up here on this graph aside from the mentioned earthquakes. Look at the previous day in the background of the static, so to speak, of the seismic signature. There's a handful of smaller little quakes, much smaller than the activity we've seen today. But really not seeing anything abnormal in terms of, elevated earthquake activity there. Looks fairly quiet. And we can check out the gas emissions up here across those volcanoes as well. See if there's anything going on in that department. Let's see, are we going to work tonight? Yes, we are. It's just kind of weird. Sometimes the USGS does that. Here's the gas emissions here. Carbon dioxide looks fairly neutral. Hydrogen sulfide, sulfur dioxide. Really no peaks going on there. I mean, it looks, low. Not a whole lot of difference going on there in terms of that. Mount Rainier, we'll go ahead and see what's going on there as well. Beautiful volcano up there for sure. But also way up there on the list of hazardous volcanoes here for the States. Do we have any gas stations? Well, not gas stations, but, the gas measuring stations out here. I'm not seeing any. That's kind of odd. Really odd. GPS out here. Kind of shows the, well, 2022. That's a little old, right? I don't think anything has changed here. This one's even older, 2015. This one goes to 2022, so we'll have to check back on that later. But this activity that's stirring up out there is away from the volcano a distance. But we'll continue to watch that and see what plays out. And that is along the Cascades here, but relatively deep, about 11 kilometers or so for some of that activity. Kind of interesting to have two separate locations here of some activity tonight. But like I said, we'll continue to watch that. What else is going on out here? Anything major across the rest of the planet? Doesn't look like it. Let's go check out space weather activity, and then we'll look at the cold weather coming up here for a good portion of the country. Proton events are still in gear, 99% certainty, and that is obvious here by looking at the most current D-region absorption map, the DRAP map, so to speak, where particles up there in the ionosphere have a dramatic effect on these high-frequency communication and low-frequency navigation systems. So that area down there could be highly affected due to the elevated proton event currently taking place. As far as auroras go, not a whole lot going on across either polar regions. Not really expecting much either in the forecast. Things look fairly green, meaning that there's not a whole lot of auroras for now. Flaring activity has kind of backed off slightly. Most of these sunspots, 3536 and 3537 up here, are looks like they're in a little state of decaying. This is the source here of the X 2.8 there a couple weeks ago, and also the X 5.0 most recently on the 1st of January when it was over here. So not for sure if this is going to pop off any more strong flaring, but we'll continue to watch it. And some of these other sunspots out here are kind of growing as well. We are looking at a couple newer regions coming up around the bend on the eastern limb that we'll watch as well in the coming days. So yeah, let's see what we got here for weather activity now. A lot of colder air coming in here to the area. This is the next couple runs or so, showing all that colder air dropping down from Canada. Now these are, I believe these are the departure. No, these are potential air temperatures out here. This is GFS model, and that is some cold air dipping down here. Look at that. Yeah, these are air temperatures forecasted here for, I don't know, I think it looks like this is a morning time period on the 14th. Not for sure how much cold air California is going to get, but the looks like the Rockies and up in Montana, even down here into Texas, that colder air is going to spill down there as we head into the middle of the month, bringing with it some snow chances as well. So a good taste of winter coming up here, it looks like, this month. As we head towards the end of January, things look to remain rather chilly as well up north here. But we'll kind of see how this event plays out. Roughly around the 15th or so is when we get the brunt of that. And again, that's a GFS model. This weather model right here goes to about the 12th or so, the European model. Either way, most of these models are in agreement that we're going to see some colder air coming down. This one over here, the CMC model, shows most of the colder air staying up north, venturing to the east. But I guess we'll see, right? Kind of see how this plays out. Either way, we could be looking at some cold temperatures. Accumulated precipitation out here. I don't want to check out that. I wanted to see the GFS model run here over the next couple weeks or so. Notice California staying kind of dry out here. We will see some colder storms coming down from the north. Pacific Northwest going to get hit pretty hard with some snow, low elevation snow probably as well from these events. It's not until after this colder air kind of moves aside that we start getting some some further wet storms hitting the California area with some. I think these storms that'll be coming up out of the southwest will bring that warmer, moist air and higher precipitation amounts out here. Looks like maybe 4 to 5 inches here through the several runs here, but most of that will kick up after the cold air gets out of here. Let's see what we got for snowfall potential out here. Now, this is just one map showing the potential snowfall areas here, and that is covering a good portion of that the event coming up, right? The colder air coming down. And this is a ways out there, right? Really can't make any plans based on this, but I kind of like to look at these on occasion just to see what these computer models are coming up with. Northern Texas, Oklahoma, all these areas getting quite a bit of snow, it looks like. Even out here in California, I doubt this. This shows maybe 8 inches of snow where I live in the Sacramento Valley, and that's probably not going to happen. We just don't get snow down here in the Sacramento Valley, so I'd be surprised if that were the case. It shows around the 16th or 17th, which is right here. Definitely some colder air in place, but most of the time when these systems come in off the coast like that, we get a southward flow, and that southward flow from the Bay Area up into the valley kind of warms us up a little bit. But then we get these events up in Redding where all that colder air gets pushed up right up against the mountain ranges up here in Redding, and the cold air sits there. And Redding has seen like 13 inches of snow off of one storm a couple years ago because of that cold setup out here. But we'll see how this plays out. Be kind of neat if we did have some snow out here. Show some heavy duty snow. All right, what else we got here, folks? I believe that is about it. El Nino status. I haven't really looked at this here recently. I think we're still in there in terms of, let me see here. The forecast. I mean, we're going down. It's supposed to continue to go down, but I think we're past that peak area as far as the elevated El Nino temperatures out here. So, where's the, let's see. These guys put out a new model yet? Model predictions does show that anomaly kind of going down there. Looks like it really takes a dip as we head into the end of 2024. Looks like it may be a neutral pattern. Or potentially, yeah, right around the neutral, or potentially a La Nina setup as we head into 2025. But notice here we're coming back down. It's considered a strong El Nino, but I have yet to see the effects out here along the west coast. And still looking like, well, that's December. Let's go here to January. This is a forecasted model showing that it's supposed to be wetter than normal out here across the California area, and that's just one of potentially several models that do show anomalies here across the California area westward into the Pacific. And the majority of them do agree that it's going to be wetter, so definitely keep an eye on that. See how that plays out. All right, folks, I'm out of here. I'm kind of tired. Gonna call it a night. Looks like another earthquake there in Yellowstone coming in to Lake Yellowstone. Didn't let's see, where's my other Yellowstone station? Right here, Canyon. Doesn't look like that showed up any at all on the Canyon station up here. So this is all localized activity to the Lake Yellowstone area. And again, yes, activity like that occurs quite often. It's just been a little while since we've had earthquake swarms out here like this. They can get bigger, that's for sure. That was back, you guys remember that event back in 2008? Was it 2008? Let's see here. That's a huge earthquake somewhere else. Not for sure where that was back in 2008, but that was a big one. A distant earthquake, probably an 8. Maybe it was 2009. I'm trying to find that. There's another distant earthquake. I remember we had a pretty decent earthquake swarm towards the end of the year. Okay, so it's got to be 2008. Was it 2007? No, where'd it go? Where did all our earthquakes go? Let me see here. Goodness, I don't quite remember which year it was. There's no way they could have disappeared. No way. Huh. That is rather interesting here. Oh, there it is. Okay, so it was more towards the end of December 2008, and that lasted for a good couple weeks. We're getting some decent sized earthquakes out there as well in the 3 and 4 range here at Yellowstone. And look at this. That is a lot of earthquake activity. A lot of people thought this was going to blow because they were getting some elevated inflation going on here across Yellowstone. Created a lot of fear-mongering YouTube people out there. But yeah, there was a lot of earthquake activity. I kind of sat back and just watched it all. But eventually it went away, and there was no eruption at all. But that was a lot of activity here. Look at that. Kind of hard to see a lot of these, but they're in there. There's hundreds and hundreds of earthquakes that popped off then. I can't remember exactly how many, but it was pretty, it was fairly interesting watching that. All right, folks, I'm going to jump off here, and you have yourself a good night, Thursday night. We'll be back here tomorrow, Friday. Finally Friday. Have a good one, folks. Catch you guys later.